This is Channel 4 with Sign On Your Views.
Hello and welcome to Sign On Your Views. This year is dedicated as European Year of Older People and Solidarity Between Generations. The aim is to raise awareness of the rights and needs of our senior citizens, especially in light of the predicted rise in population of older people as a result of improved diet and healthcare provision. Today's programme looks at what is provided for older people. We'll be asking if they're satisfied with the services they receive. What can be done to improve their quality of life? How can they secure their rights? We must support them. Remember, we'll all be old ourselves one day. In Britain, there are now over 10 million people of pensionable age. That's about 18% of the population. It's predicted that over the next 40 years, the number of older people will rise to 14 million and will represent about 23% of the population. Research shows most pensioners spend a higher proportion of their money on essentials, like housing, food and fuel, than other households, and even more if living alone. They are less likely to have central heating, a car, a telephone, a washing machine or a refrigerator. Older people are more likely to have had a long-standing illness which limits their lifestyle and to live in properties which lack basic amenities. There are many afternoon clubs held around the northeast. We're here at one of them, Todd's Nook in Newcastle. It's a very popular club and it boasts one regular member who's reached the grand age of 95. But the club also has younger members who come to enjoy the company of the older folk. It's very comfortable. Do you like living here? Yes. I've lived here for 28 years and there've been no problems. I'm very happy living here and it's got a good view. Could you tell us why you're both so attracted to the Tuesday Pensioners Club? Oh, the signing, the conversation. There are no other deaf people around here, so we have to go to the club. We have to be with other deaf people. It's only once a week as it is, not every day. I see. We have a committee, a team of 5. Everything used to be run by the social worker, but we didn't want that. So we got ourselves a new team and we got rid of the social worker. We're all deaf, all 5. So the social worker went. They still come back once a week just to check if anyone needs anything doing and if anyone's ill and that sort of thing. But for the rest, we manage it all ourselves. We organise trips, Christmas dinner at a hotel, everything. This is Sunderland, in the northeast of England, and we're here at the Age Concern Centre. A number of afternoon clubs are held here, and one afternoon, once a week, is offered to deaf people. This is their only opportunity to chat and socialise together. can see my old friends here. That makes me happy. It's better than sitting at home with four walls, feeling miserable. It's better to come here, be happy and chat with my friends. Well, it's very pleasurable to see all my old friends, to see them all. And I like playing bingo as well, and having a game of cards at tea time. I look forward to my Wednesday afternoons. It's always been my world. I'm deaf myself, you see. I have sisters and brothers, but we don't communicate very well. So I go to my club. I'm much happier there. In the studio today, we have three well-known older members of the deaf community. They are Arthur Dimmock, journalist and author of a number of books, Betty Shrine, leader and activist and vice chair of the British Deaf Sports Council, and Billy Burt, chair of the Carlisle Social Club and the Pensioners Afternoon Club. Rachel will be talking to them about their views of older deaf people, their rights and desires. Can you tell me why these afternoon clubs are so vital for older deaf people?
When I left school, I went along to a deaf club here in Newcastle. I went up the stairs, through a door, and there was a room full of older people. One authoritative man with a great handlebar moustache came over and said, "Come here, son, what's your name?" I said, "Dimmock," and he started to introduce me to everyone and tell me all the whys and wherefores. I was impressed that he was so wise, and I was so ignorant. I felt really cowed by him, and that's how it was before. The old people ran the club. It's all changed now. Young people have taken over, and the old people are pushed to one side, discarded. I think that's wrong. Well, I agree with Arthur. My club's only there because of the hard work of older deaf people who fundraised to buy the club. It was all done by the old people. Now it's bought, the youngsters think nothing of it. It's just a building to them. We have to tell them it's only there because the older members raised the money. They don't think of that.
There should be clubs, old people's clubs, all over England. There aren't enough at the moment. But some deaf people are isolated. They live alone and they're very lonely. It's better for them to meet other deaf people. It helps them to live longer. It would be better, but of course it depends on the club. They're all different, some good and some not so good. It's really a question of leadership. You've all spent your working lives in the deaf clubs, but after retirement, all you've got to look forward to are the afternoon clubs. Are those activities enough? Aren't dominoes, whist and bingo a bit too dull to be satisfying? Should there be more?
From what I've seen, they're not so good. We've got to have them, I agree, but I don't think they're very good. I once went to Dusseldorf in Germany, and things are so much better there. The deaf people all came to the club in their Mercedes, all well dressed. You see, pensions are 3 or 4 times higher over there than here in Britain. We get a lousy deal here, very little money, and I think that's what's wrong here. Most people get very little pension, so the clubs look poor and attract little funding. If we had decent pensions, we could help raise funds so the clubs would prosper. I think that's it. I'm not bothered about what happens abroad. I think we should look to our own doorstep. Deaf people need to have something to put their heart into, to motivate them, something they can enjoy, a hobby, an activity, running the club. That's important to deaf people. It doesn't matter whether you've got money. It's motivation and enthusiasm. They're important. We can share the funds amongst ourselves, and that can be better. You don't have to be rich. If you are rich, you might not be interested in working in the club. No, we're better off as we are, all pulling together. It's a different thing.
I'm over 70 myself, and I've always been a keen sportswoman, and I'm still keen on sports. I run activities for the BDSC. At the moment, I feel I'm not ready to join a pensioners club. But maybe the time will come when I have to join. I don't know. You've talked of a lack of money amongst other things. Is a change of attitude needed? How could that come about?
You can't change public attitudes. I mean, it's like deaf youngsters. They copy the hearing public. So if they have a bad attitude towards pensioners, the youth pick that up. It's wrong. The public in Britain is not supportive of pensioners. The government is happy to see old people dying off. It pleases the government, and that's where the public gets its attitude from, the government. It's terrible.
In a few minutes, in part 2, we'll be taking a look at what residential services can provide for older deaf people in Edinburgh.
No, I'm all right. I'm usually with someone, so I'm not afraid. But if I was walking down a narrow road in the black of night, I'd be afraid of being hit from behind by someone, because I wouldn't see them.
Next week, no, in 2 weeks' time, it'll be going up to £50, my rent. And that's got to come out of my pension.
Living on my own, or being abandoned by my son. I know of 2 or 3 deaf people who are in homes. But they're lonely. It's terrible. What should happen if they had Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease? That'd be twice as bad. How are hearing people going to help them? They can probably feed them, but they can't communicate with them.
A lot of older people are concerned about their health, money, safety, where they live, and whether they can look after themselves. We've come to Edinburgh to look at 2 ways older deaf people are able to live independently, safe in the knowledge that someone is on hand if they're needed. This is Castle View residential home and halfway house for deaf people, run by the Edinburgh and East Scotland Society for the Deaf. These premises have recently been refurbished and extended and are specially adapted for deaf residents. We asked some of those residents what it's like to live amongst deaf people. It used to be Reverend Grieg, and then after we'd moved here to Castle View, that was in 1951, he left. He was replaced by Mrs. Arthur and David Arthur. They're both good signers, and it's good here. It's a happy home. We're all pals here. Yes, I'm very happy here with Peggy. We both went to the same school, Henderson Row. It's all changed here. For the good. We can go out, and I have my own room. I like to go away at weekends and on holidays to see my children and my great-grandchildren. But I'm always happy to come back again. Oh. Someone at the door. That light's very good. Come in. There's tea and coffee ready downstairs. Oh, yes, I'd like a coffee. Would you like me to help you downstairs? Yes, please, if you would. Okay. This is the Abbey Hill area of Edinburgh, and behind me is Kirkcare Sheltered Housing. The building contains 31 flats, specially designed for deaf and hard of hearing people, each with its own living room, kitchen and bedroom. So does this accommodation meet old people's needs? Let's find out.
I can tell you something that happened one night in bed. I was suffering, with my leg that is. I pulled the alarm bell for the warden to come. It was about 2 or 3 in the morning when I pulled the alarm cord, and the warden came. I said about the pain I could feel in my leg, and they said, "Do you need the doctor, do you?" I said I didn't, I'd just try my tablets. And they said, "All right." Then I walked around for about an hour, then went back to bed and off to sleep. And that was it. I think it's good here. I know that there are other homes around, but they're not safe. It's much better here. We're all together here.
When I meet my deaf friends, they ask me where I live. And I say, Abbey Hill. It's much better there. It's sheltered accommodation for deaf people. I'm very happy there, and I've no worries at all. They're all very impressed. I think all deaf people should have sheltered accommodation. There's plenty of places for hearing people in sheltered homes, but it's better for deaf people to be put together for the company, the signing. And my friends all agree with me. Can I ask you, Edinburgh has those 2 types of homes. Do you have the same locally? Should you?
We've got one in my area. That's the Isle of Wight. We come under the authority of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. So through that, we have a beautiful home, a marvellous house and gardens, and deaf people are really happy there, from what I've seen. I think they should have homes like that all over. The British Deaf Association used to have their own, the Ernest Aycliffe home, but they couldn't keep it up, and it had to close. That was a real shame. There was a lot of disappointment. There should have been homes like that everywhere. The Royal Association for the Deaf have one near Canterbury, and that's still going. It seems fine.
I think there should be many more residential homes for deaf people. But of course, it depends on their income, whether they can afford it. If they can't, they have to, well, you can't force someone to go to an old people's home. You can't force them. But if they've got to go, they've got to go. But please, put deaf people in deaf homes, not hearing homes. Because if they're put in hearing homes, they'll be very, very isolated.
You know, my father was put in an old folks' home, and he didn't like it. It was a long way away, and he was lonely. They were all hearing, and he was the only deaf person. He got very frustrated and wanted to go home, but his house had already been sold. Someone was living there. Eventually, it got so bad they called my brother, and my dad was taken away. He just looked so upset. I know some deaf people don't mind hearing homes. If they've had an oral education and can talk and write, they can survive there. But it's so hard on the others.
If deaf people are isolated in homes, what should we, the deaf community, be doing about it? Visiting them?
In my area, there are 3 or 4 old people who've been put in homes. And we deaf people visit them. And we chat and we ask if their sons or daughters visit them. They say, no, never. Isn't that strange? We deaf people make the effort, but once they've been put in the home, the hearing people don't bother with them. They leave them on their own. That's dreadful.
People should try to visit if possible, especially if the person is a member of their club. They should take it in turns to visit them. Cheer them up. Because I know of one case where one man was put in a home full of hearing people. The council put him there because he had no family. Well, to have no family and then be put in there, we deaf people thought it was wrong. So we tried to explain to the council and asked for him to be moved to a home with deaf people. But the council said it was none of our business, it was council business. We knew he didn't like it. He's very sad there. What would you like to see happening in the future?
I think we must have a campaign where deaf pensioners get together with hearing pensioners, and united we can mount a stronger campaign for a better standard of living. It should be done.
Well, thank you. Interesting comments there. It's so important that we're aware of others' needs and that we support our deaf community and provide better services for a better quality of life. As part of European Year for Older People and next week's Deaf Awareness Week, Channel 4 is encouraging older viewers with hearing impairment to use its subtitling service with this advert.
Don't need to have it that loud, Grandad. We've got teletext. You can have subtitles.
Not a foreign film.
Just press 888 on this. There you go. All the words appear. Channel 4 has loads of programmes with subtitles. Documentary, drama, everything. Just look for 888 before the programme and it's in all the magazines and newspapers. Neat, eh?
Whatever your taste in television, you'll get more with 888 on 4. Well, almost.
Channel 4 currently shows around 35 hours of teletext subtitled programmes a week and hopes to increase that by a third more in 1994, working up to 50% of all its programmes being subtitled by 1998. Another piece of good news to mark Deaf Awareness Week is that BBC Two are to interpret and subtitle the 8 AM BBC One news starting this Monday. That'll run every Monday to Friday, so congratulations to them. In next week's At Leisure programme, we'll be looking at how some older deaf people have kept themselves in the picture. So join us, sign on at 12 o'clock next Saturday. Bye. Every month, the British Deaf News publishes the Sign-On supplement with more information about our programmes. If you'd like a free copy of this month's supplement, send a large stamped addressed envelope to this address.